Hello and welcome to Voices of Enablement by GTMPD, an interview series focusing on key issues affecting the enablement community today. It's a tough market right now. Organizations are cutting staff, pausing investments into their go-to-marketing department. So, how do you make a compelling use case for the value of enablement in this unpredictable economy is the core question that we are seeking to answer. So, our guest today is Salil Mishra. Salil was a sales rep at Salesforce and is transformed into an enablement leader. So, he has a vantage point on both the worlds. Welcome, Salil. Pleasure having you on the show. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Dimanshu. Thanks for having me here. As you mentioned, right, I have made a transition from something which is, hardcore selling, which is pretty the SaaS domain to something more of a, enablement domain that is there, right? Just come across with close to, 5+ years of experience across the SaaS domain. And I think, the flair for enablement always, it has come through the entire experience of, working in the SaaS industry, right? Currently I'm working as the sales enablement lead at Vymo. Thanks again, for having me on the show. Yeah.
Pleasure having you on board, Salil. Let's kick this off. The very first question, I think I speak to tons of sales enablement leaders, and this is one question that everybody seeks to answer. How do you elevate the role of sales enablement with the C-suite when many of the support functions are being cut in this time today?
Sure. I think so. One of the most important points that I felt, in terms of discussing enablement with the leadership, right, especially given the current economic scenario, right, is I think you have to kind of build trust with the leaders. That's something that I've kind of very genuinely felt in my experience and in my role. I think when you build trust with the leadership, you have a clear set of asks from them in terms of what do they want as an output from the entire enablement function, and from a support function perspective to the sales team and the market facing teams, right? Have a more open communication with them in terms of what all asks are kind of needed. How is the team doing as of now? How can probably the enablement function support them in a much more cohesive way, right? And that can only happen through open communication, right? Which is eventually going to help the team build and grow through, right? So I think that has been my kind of perspective on this, right? That you need to have transparency and clarity in communication with your leadership team. Yeah.
Right, Salil, you spoke about that there has to be some alignment on the ask that the leaders have, and then making sure that we have on the same page. And again, right, this one question every enablement practitioner is asking today, that unless we are not helping companies grow their revenue or helping them cut their budgets, it kind of gets deprioritized by the CEO or the CFO. So wanted to ask if you can throw some light on what are the kind of outcomes that you talk to your CEO about when regarding the sales enablement. I'm sure our viewers would love to understand more on that.
Well, sure. So I think Devanshu, you're probably referring to the point that how do you kind of measure the impact, in
Yeah.
terms of what an enablement program does, or how enablement affects the entire organization, right? So let's give a very simple example, right? In terms of probably some of the new reps who are joining in, and I'm not saying a bunch of 10-20 reps, right? It may also be 2-3 reps who've joined the customer facing org, right? And as an enablement person, my impact is to ensure that they are ready for their role in the least possible time, right? And they're effective, in kind of selling the product and kind of trying to understand what the product is, understanding the market, understanding who are the customers that we're selling to, and all this, right? So I think as an enablement function, if I can, help in reducing that ramp up time for them, right? That is creating impact. That is showing impact of enablement, right? As an enablement person or as an enablement team, if I can kind of help the current set of folks in sales folks, or the current set of market facing folks in the organization prepare much more better in terms of a certain use case, or a certain new product that has been launched, right? That is my impact, that is my value addition to the revenue function or to the org, right? And I completely second with you on that point, that a CFO would definitely look at enablement as something that is okay, what value am I bringing on board, right? So I think that's the kind of value addition that I'm talking about, right? Helping reps get to a point where they are 100%, right? And they're not missing out on any deals, right? Giving them the right set of competitive intel, competitive tools, giving them access to each and everything that is going to ensure that they are successful in that role, right? So I think that's where an enablement comes in, and it's a very critical function, right? And I'm really happy to see that a lot of organizations, not just across the globe, right, but also in India and APAC, right, they are now seeing enablement as a very strategic function to which is aligned to their revenue goals as well, right? So I think that's a key point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true because again, in my role, I speak to a lot of sales enablement leaders, and there is a change happening. Companies are, or the CEOs are trying to understand, okay, the sales enablement is not just about running trainings, or they are looking at it, okay, how can they help us elevate the entire revenue team's performance? So I think that change is coming for sure. Yeah. I
Absolutely.
think
Yep.
my second question is again is a subset of the I think what you mentioned, that when you hire a lot of reps, you help them improve the or shorten the RAM time. And this is one question that again, not many companies are hiring this in this market today. So what do you think is the role of sales enablement when you're not hiring a lot of reps?
Well, absolutely. I think one of the most key elements I feel that your enablement function can help, right, and I've been always a very firm believer of this, that how can you help your market-facing teams, do more, right? And when I'm saying do more, I'm talking about the golden concept of 80-20, right? So that's like how can you ensure that your reps are extracting at least 80% of their quota, right, from those top 20% accounts that they have, right? So, or maybe from the top 4 to 5 accounts that they have, right? And as an enablement person, as an enablement team, how can I help them refine that? How can I help them get more from those accounts, keeping in mind continuous customer success, right? Because let's be honest here, that if you're not helping your customers succeed due to the reason by which they bought your product, right, they're not going to give you more business, right? So how can we kind of help that? And how enablement plays a crucial role in that is by upskilling the market facing teams on a continuous basis, right? A couple of points which are very important, I feel, is ensuring content adoption, internally and externally, right? Taking regular feedback from the customers, taking regular feedback from your sales teams, from your market facing teams in terms of content, what is working, what is not working. One very critical element which I feel teams miss out on is I feel alignment with the GTM functions, right? Are the revenue enablement folks aligning with GTM, aligning with sales together cohesively, and jotting down a strategy for success for a specific account, or probably for a new market that the team wants to enter into, right? So I think all these things are very important. And another key factor, Devanshu, I feel, is replicating the success of one account in other accounts, right? I'm not sure a lot of companies talk about it on a very open platform in terms of the entire organization, right? That, hey, this is what we have done with the customer, this is the reason that they've chosen us, most importantly, this is the problem that we've solved for them, right? So are you kind of documenting this together, right? Putting this together in one platform, informing your teams about it. I think that's a place where an enablement can come in really handy. And also, we see a lot of companies expanding into various different geographies as well, right? So how do you ensure that cross geographical wins and learnings are also taken into account, right? So enablement can really just plug an entire loop that is kind of there, right? So yeah, I think that's my view on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a great point on how do you replicate the success of one account or one rep and then cascade it to the rest of the team. I think that's where again, right, 60-70% of the sales people are doing average, then top 10-20% people are doing great. So how do you replicate the behavior of those reps and then coach the middle, that we call it moving the middle. And you spoke
Yes.
about that. Okay, how do you help them generate 80% of the business from those top 20% of the accounts? Can you double click on that? Okay, what are and you spoke about, okay, how do you gather the learnings of one geographical team or one particular rep, and make sure that data is available to the rest of the sellers. It could be a case study, it could be a playbook that one particular seller has created. Can you talk to me more on that, like what are the different kind of things that you do in ensuring that you are giving the learning of a top seller to move your middle?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing which I've always believed, right, in terms of when you look at your sales teams, right, a lot of times someone who is your champion sales guy in the organization, right, a lot of people feel that, okay, that person maybe is a bottleneck in terms of learning, because they might not be that much open to sharing on how they've kind of won, or how they've gone about it, right? Uh, and many people, I feel, kind of afraid to even approach the person, like, hey, you've done this and all that, right? So my thought as an enablement practitioner or enablement person is to transform this sales champion into a sales champion for the entire organization, right? And make them share about their impact, right? How have they gone about their account, right? Share their entire journey of their account, right from the time it was kind of brought in by maybe an inside sales rep, or maybe it was an outbound call, or however the kind of person has reached out on that account, right? And then show the value, right? How we kind of approach that account, what all who all were the key stakeholders involved, not just externally but also internally. A lot of multi-threading also needs to be done sometimes, wherein you need to connect with your own internal C-level folks as well, right? In terms of trying to crack into the account, right? So how does the person kind of done that? Try and probably create a playbook around it as well, in terms of what all obstacles the person faced, or what all obstacles we faced as a team. It can be something as simple as probably a demo did not go well, or there was a pricing bottleneck which was there, right? So when you jot down all these points together, right? And you see the larger picture, right? And then you kind of portray it across that, okay, hey, this is how we kind of won this account, right? It can resonate very nicely with a lot of folks in the team, wherein they can kind of feel that, okay, maybe if I would have done this similar strategy in my previous account, which I kind of lost out, maybe I could have had a different outcome, right? And then going back and revisiting on all of those accounts and all of those thought processes, right? So I think that change in mindset, that change in attitude in terms of winning, right? I think that is what is the biggest differentiator for me, honestly. And I think not the right word, but leveraging this internal sales champion, right, for that, right, is a very key thing. I think a lot of people really miss out on the fact that sales people need a lot of motivation in terms of on a day-to-day basis. I think if enablement can kind of help in again getting that more, right. And I've always been a huge fan of this, right. I think there's nothing more better that enablement team can do, right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, I love it because I remember I used to work at LinkedIn, and there we used to have a enablement team used to do a spotlight where,
Yeah.
again, every seller could be not a salesperson. It could be great at every step of the sales process. One could be great at discovery. One could be great at, running the demo calls. So how do you combine the learnings of your top sellers and make it available to the rest of the team? I think very similar thing that you're talking about. And that is what the reps will have access to. Okay, how can I, for every particular thing, they will have the best example. So I'm sure that's, very helpful.
Absolutely, Devanshu. Yeah.
Yeah, the other question I have is, again, to me, it's a tough market right now. Most revenue teams are missing their numbers, and I think now more than ever, enablement teams have a vital role in making sure they are able to elevate their revenue team's performance. So the question I have is, okay, what is your perspective on that? Why is revenue enablement critical for the organization's success in this current economic slowdown?
Sure. So I think when you look at how the market is as now, right, and I completely second you on this, right, that a lot of teams are kind of facing this crunch in terms of probably certain accounts, probably customers are not willing to buy, right. So I think it's imperative that as a revenue enablement function, you are there you serve as a reminder to your internal market facing folks, right, that hey, this is something that we have kind of done in these accounts, right. This is something which is there. We use this term a lot, probably even the SMB space, right. You kind of look at low hanging fruits, right. So providing more value in terms of how those low hanging fruits can be bought down together. I think that's a critical area where I feel enablement can definitely help. I think another part is more in terms of your upsell and cross sell, right. Because in an environment wherein you're finding it difficult to sell to a new customer, probably you would go back to the drawing board, look at your current set of customers and try and kind of analyze that, okay, hey, this is what we have as of now, right, as a customer, right. How can you probably help them do more with our product, right. Run through product adoption cycles. One point which I feel the one is very critical right here is in terms of your customer success team, right. Because I think if revenue enablement teams can align with your customer success teams and again chart that journey in terms of creating more impact for the product has kind of bought out, right, then they can help a lot of companies again bridge that again gap again, right, in terms of probably having newer accounts and newer deals being run through, right. That's one area I feel is where enablement can really help through. Second thing which I've personally experienced this during my tenure with the SaaS organization and sales as well is the impact that enablement has in terms of giving out clear cut customer references in a deal, right. So I'll give a very crisp example. Just a couple of years back, we were running a deal with one of the mid-market customers, and more or less, a same scenario wherein there was a pricing discussion which was going on, and they were just not keen to invest, right, in terms of the solution, right. And then what we did as a sales team was we bought out at least 3-4 use cases wherein the customer was from their similar industry. They had a problem which the customer was again facing, right. So we tried to relate a lot of things with what they were facing, right. And then we brought about that value to them, right. And I remember we prepared a dedicated deck in terms of getting all things together, right. We also told them that hey, this is something that we've solved for, and it's absolutely fine even if you start off with a couple of users, right. Because we want to ensure that you see value in the product, and then probably we can go about having a deal put through much more number of users and stuff, right. So I think when you provide value to the customer, right, and there again I feel enablement is very critical in terms of educating the entire team in terms of what all use cases do we have, right, what all industries do we serve in, right. So I think that's a very big takeaway from which I have seen, right, because the enablement team helped us at that point of time in terms of trying to understand all use cases that we have for the product, all of our references, all of our referenceable customers as well, right. So as an enablement function, I think that is the biggest value that I can kind of add in the current scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, you said it right, because when we talk about sales enablement, right, it's not just sales enablement; it's the revenue enablement. How do you
Yes.
lean on your customer success team to generate more business, right, or to show more value to your new customer, because they have depth of knowledge. They know what are the different use cases that we have. They know who are the healthy customers. It can happen in multiple ways. Can they if we have happy customer, can we get some customer stories out? Can we do reference calls, or can we lean on them to understand more on the use case that we have solved for other customers? These are all the things, if you are able to replicate and give it to your seller, they will be able to do a better job with onboarding the new customer.
Absolutely, Devanshu. Yeah.
Right. So Sally, like, this one question I have, because when the teams are large, there are hundreds of customer success teams. So how does enablement take a proactive approach in terms of making sure you have the knowledge from each customer success manager or each account, that you are able to further pass it on to your salespeople? So what are the kind of initiatives that you do to make sure that happens?
Yeah, sure. I think this is a great question, right? And something that I've encountered myself, in my entire journey as well, right? So I think what you kind of do is you ensure that that there are continuous learning sessions happening, within the team, within the customer success team, number one, and also secondly, you kind of put those out together, on a larger platform as well of the organization, right? Wherein we're trying to understand that, okay, because we have one additional number of users or additional space in an account, how do we do that eventually, right? So I think highlighting that is very important. Number two is if it is documenting this, right? A lot of times what happens is we keep talking about a lot of things in various sessions, right? But we don't have it documented from a reference standpoint, right? So I think having it documented on say maybe a content management platform, it's something as simple as that, right? Because let's be honest, not just sales, each and every individual out there, if they don't have any kind of a proper content management platform, they will struggle to kind of store and find information, right? So having something like that in place will really help. Number three, again, ensuring that these learnings, something which I call as the trickle down effect, right? It percolates down to each and every individual in the customer facing org, right? So someone who's also in sales, they're also aware about this win, that hey, that we won this account again, we won additional users, right? So ensuring that your teams are aware of it, that is one thing which is definitely helpful. And I do understand a lot of times it may get over the head as well, right? That okay, hey, there's too much amount of information that is coming out, right? So probably have multiple sessions together for various different kind of teams for different segments. Maybe for an enterprise team you're having a different segment, for a mid-market team you have a different segment. Put it even geography wise, right? And then bring it all together and showcase it together, right? So I think that is how I feel enablement can add a great amount of value. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So just to summarize, because you mentioned some great points. One, to make sure that there are frequent sync ups happening between sales team and customer success team, where they understand, okay, what is happening on each account, and we don't want to overwhelm the salespeople. So maybe break it down or categorize. If there's a SMB customer, SMB sales rep, he's talking to the CSM teams from the SMB customers to get more customer stories or understand more use cases. Second, document all of this knowledge, because reinforcement is one thing that I think enablement team focuses on, because people forget 70-80% information, they'll forget in the next 1 hour.
Yeah.
Document each of the information, put it on a knowledge management solution or a content management solution, so that salespeople can refer back to it.
Yeah.
Got it. Understood. Salil, one other question that again, like, enablement is thought of just as initial onboarding. That is one, I think, misconception everybody has. So wanted to take your perspective on what value can enablement team provide to a tenured rep, because in a time like this, not many companies are hiring a lot of salespeople. So what kind of value do you think enablement team can provide to a tenured rep?
Yeah, sure. I think so. Again, some point that kind of comes up a lot of times, right? That enablement is just kind of confused with, okay, maybe it's just an onboarding kind of a team that is going to help you sail through, right? So I think someone who's very tenured in the organization and they're looking at enablement, right? So I think a lot of times what I've seen and I've kind of felt is that a tenured rep, maybe the intent to kind of know or learn something more new in the organization, right? Something new with the product, something new with different use case, or probably a different customer, right? That tendency tends to kind of drop down, because since they are so much focused in given the current set of accounts that they are in, right? Probably that tendency to kind of learn that kind of just kind of drops down. I'm not saying that it completely goes away; it kind of drops down, right? So I think as an enablement person, how I would say it is, how can I kind of nudge them to kind of learn something more new on the go, right? And also it's very important that an enablement person kind of leverages this tenure rep for the entire organization as well, right? Because just because the kind of experience that they have working in the organization, how can they kind of share it across to new folks who are coming, right, or other folks in the team, right? Someone who is say 5 years, 10 years in an organization working in the sales domain, the person is I would say that is as good as diamond, right? Because the kind of experiences that they have selling the product, facing various scenarios, right? Not just pricing discussion, but something with respect to even a product mindset, right? Or how you sell the product in the market, right? If they can share that across with the entire sales team, with the entire customer facing team, I think that is absolute gold dust, right? So leveraging them, and again, as I said earlier as well, right? Putting them across as sales champion, right? Putting them across as champions for the organization, because I've always felt that someone who's very tenured should be sharing their learnings and knowledge with the entire team, right? And vice versa, they can also kind of learn a lot of new things from other folks, right? I've always believed that anyone in any domain, right, is always continuously learning, right? Doesn't matter if you are 30-year-old AE or 55-year-old AE, right? You kind of learn from each other, and learn and grow as a team. So I think enablement can definitely tie that up as well. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, it's more about how do you leverage their experience, their tenure to coach the new sellers, and similarly, how can enablement team help us get more perspective or a newer perspective on some of the things that are working? Because see, when you're selling the same product for the 3 to 4 years, you kind of have one single view. Okay, this is how it works. But sometimes a fresh
Yeah.
perspective, a new salesperson coming in, bringing fresh perspective, product gets evolved. So all of that, new nuances also help your tenure salespeople to up level their skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, Divanshu, a lot of times I've also seen this, that say someone new has joined the organization, right? Probably they might be facing difficulty in trying to understand the product, or even kind of sell it out, right? So when they speak to someone who's very tenured in the organization, that just also gives them a sense of confidence, and it just kind of boosts their own morale as well, right? In terms of okay, probably I should do this thing. This is something that has kind of worked out, right? And I think once they see success being driven from it, that just creates a whole new different kind of environment, right? So yeah, I think we can definitely help anyone who's kind of tenured in the organization to kind of do all these things and help enable
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure once they see success, then it gives a cue
Yeah.
for the enablement team to put them again on the spotlight, and so that they can talk about it. That hey, this is how I got benefit from it, and the other people also get motivated to follow whatever practices
Absolutely.
that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to the last question, Salil. In a world where every deal, must be won, how can enablement teams up-level rep skills and make them more effective? Again, right, we can't win every deal. We have to break it down that, okay, can we make sellers more effective, or can we make them more skillful? Because if they're more skillful, they will have better conversations. If they have better conversation, then they will have more tendency to win those deals. So how does enablement take that into account?
Yeah, sure. I think something that I can definitely throw a huge light on, right, is it's, again, I'm saying this from my own experience and seeing folks around me, worked across in SaaS, right? I think number one is you have to be, very authentic, right? You have to be more of a consultant and less of a seller, when you look at, in an enablement function, kind of, helping the team, right? The idea is to ensure that your teams are aware of what exactly is the product that they're selling out there, right? How do you ensure as an enablement function that they are trained rigorously in terms of trying to understand the product, trying to know what exactly is the problem that the product solves for, right? And then definitely knowing who is your eventual customer and who is your target audience, right? So when the market facing teams know these three things, right, I think nothing can stop them from being a very effective consultant, and again, as I mentioned, less of a seller, right? That's the whole idea, I feel, which enablement can infuse in an organization. Another thing that I feel is very important is again, showing the impact that your customers have got by using your product, right? A lot of times I've seen this personally, right? Sales guys love to keep talking about, okay, this is what my product does, this is what these are the different features of the product. Are you aligning the product features and all the key aspects of a product to the problem that the customer is asked, right, or the customer is facing, right? When you bring that alignment together, right, that is wherein you have a sense of impact and victory for your product and for the customer as well, right? Because you obviously the customer is only going to buy your product if they see that, okay, it's going to solve my problem, right? So how do you kind of bridge that together, right? And it's very important again here that enablement function jumps in, again, provides that complete knowledge in terms of what your product is actually solving for, right? And probably train the team again. I've always been a huge fan of constant trainings in terms of product certifications, giving your mock pitches in a very neat and crisp way, ensuring that the team is able to give the demos out and out, right? Ensuring the team is aware in terms of what are the best pricing strategies that are there. How do you negotiate? Negotiation is a skill which is really, it's a very key skill in sales. And I feel very sorry to say this, but a lot of teams don't focus on this, right? They feel that, okay, just once a pricing mechanism happens through, it's just going to run through the deal team, and we're going to get some discounts, right? But that's not how it happens in sales. So having that thought process also is very important. And I think last but not the least, I've learned this in, again, from my experience, right? It takes a village to come together as when you win an account, right? So having every team involved in the deal, come together, right? And share all those aspects together. That is where enablement can provide a huge boost. And also having leadership support, Devanshu, I feel that if your leadership team is not supporting any of your initiatives, right, you're never going to go through in an enablement environment or enablement function, right? So it's important that your leadership team is aware of what kind of an impact you're creating. You're discussing very openly with them that, hey, these are the initiatives that I want to drive in the sales org, and these are the outcomes that I'm looking at, right? So it's a very clear and crisp definition that is there. So I think, when you look at all these things put together, I think that's how enablement function can really drive things up in the sales org.
Yeah, I think Salil, you mentioned a great point on, again, knowing the product, knowing the customer, knowing the competition is great, but then we also don't want the salespeople to be too doomed into their product that they think this is the best solution. It is more about customers than talking about your product. So I think uncovering those pain points, those challenges, and then tying it back to your solution is where you are able to show the complete value. If you're just going to talk about the features, the products, that will not make your buyers, buy your particular product or service. So it's, I think, more about uncovering your buyers' challenges, and I think discovery plays a important role in that. So I'm sure.
Oh, that's a massive. It is a massive role. Yeah, I mean, if your team is not trained, very in a very nice way in terms of having a proper discovery call, I think that's the number one area that you have to kind of plug in, right? Because see, your first impact is the last impact, right?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of do that? That's a very major thing. Yeah, you called it out there. Yeah.
Do you guys follow any discovery framework?
We don't have any specific discovery framework in here at Vymo as of now, but because we have a very small inside sales team, right? So we don't have anything which is very specific. But then again, having worked in other organizations wherein the inside sales team is pretty big, right? So there definitely we used to have a document in terms of how you kind of expect the discovery call to go through, right? Also, but yes, having said that, in terms of how our AEs take the call, or probably how even the CS folks take the call, yes, we do have a discovery document that is there, right? So that kind of helps them to kind of talk about, it's a talk track basically that you're looking at, right? That, okay, hey, how you go about talking into an account or talking to a specific persona, right? So I think that's very key again, and when I'm talking about kind of creating certain playbooks as well, right, for folks, right? A discovery playbook is definitely a no-brainer, right? You need to have that, right? It's very key.
Yeah. Great, Salil. I think good conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. I'm sure the fellow practitioners will love it. It will help them create more business value in their organization. So we'll publish this particular podcast on LinkedIn, and I'm sure when the similar sales enablement people will look at it, they would want to understand more about it. So we'll tag you so that they can reach out to you directly and understand more about it.
Absolutely, Devanshu. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Great talking to you, and looking forward to other folks as well. Come out and talk. Again, as I said earlier, right? Constant believer of learning from the entire community together, right? So thanks again. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that was a major reason because there are not many communities based out of India. So I thought maybe let's bring on all the sales enablement practitioners, leaders, and have them share their perspective so that other people can take advantage of that.
Absolutely, Devanshu. Thank you so much.
All right, Salil. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.